After 120 years underwater, a sunken ship was raised. What was found inside shocked experts. It was a time when the world was very different. Sailors depended on the stars to navigate, letters took weeks to arrive, and oceans held mysteries that no one could imagine. The ship, once proud and strong, had been a part of this world. Now, after 120 years underwater, it was about to reveal its story, a story that would shock experts and captivate everyone who heard about it. The discovery began not as a sudden event, but as a careful search led by a group of passionate marine archaeologists. These experts were fascinated by the history of ships and the secrets they carried. For years, they had scoured historical records, old newspapers, and shipping logs, looking for clues about vessels that had vanished without a trace. Among these records, one ship caught their attention, a vessel that had disappeared during a violent storm more than a century ago. No one knew exactly what had happened to it, and over time, it had become almost a legend among historians and sailors. The location of the ship was particularly mysterious. It was thought to lie near a small, remote island in the ocean, far from busy shipping routes. The waters there were deep, with strong currents and rocky seabeds that made navigation difficult even with modern technology. Yet the team of archaeologists was determined. They knew that if they could locate the ship, it could offer a rare glimpse into life in the 19th century, a time when sea travel was both dangerous and full of adventure. Preparation for the search took months. The team needed to assemble special equipment, including sonar scanners to map the ocean floor, remotely operated vehicles to explore the depths, and cameras capable of withstanding crushing pressure. Every detail mattered because the ocean was unpredictable. Storms could strike without warning, and even the smallest mistake could mean losing the ship forever. The archaeologists worked tirelessly, often late into the night, studying maps and planning the expedition with careful precision. When the team finally arrived at the site, the excitement was palpable. The ocean stretched endlessly in every direction, its surface sparkling under the sunlight. The calm sea, however, hid the deep, dark secrets below. The ship had been resting silently in this underwater world for generations, surrounded by coral, fish, and the slow accumulation of sand and sediment. For years, it had escaped notice, yet now it was about to be rediscovered. The first scans of the ocean floor revealed an outline that immediately caught the experts' attention. Through the sonar images, the shape of a ship began to emerge, its long hull clearly visible even after all these years. It was a moment of awe and disbelief. The ship, though battered by time and the harsh conditions of the deep, had survived remarkably well. Its structure remained intact, a silent reminder of the people who had built it and the lives it had carried. As the team prepared to explore further, they faced another challenge: the depth of the water. The ship rested at a level where the pressure was immense, far greater than at the surface. Sending divers directly was too risky. Instead, the team used remotely operated vehicles, small machines equipped with lights, cameras, and mechanical arms, to investigate the ship from a safe distance. These machines could move slowly across the seabed, capturing every detail in real time, allowing the experts to study the ship without endangering human lives. The first images from the vehicles were mesmerizing. The ship's wooden hull, though worn, showed signs of careful construction. Barnacles and coral clung to its sides, creating an underwater tapestry that had taken decades to form. Every plank, nail, and rope told a story of craftsmanship and the enduring struggle against the sea. But what fascinated the team most were the hints of what lay inside. Shadows suggested cabins, storage rooms, and perhaps even personal belongings, all preserved beneath layers of sediment. As the days passed, the archaeologists began piecing together the ship's story. They studied historical records to learn about its voyages, the people who had sailed on it, and the cargo it had carried. They imagined the ship in its prime, cutting through waves, sails full of wind, and crew members moving quickly to keep everything in order. They wondered about the storms it had faced, the ports it had visited, and the lives of the men and women aboard. The more they learned, the more the ship became a bridge between the past and the present. One of the most intriguing aspects of the discovery was how well the ship had been preserved. The ocean, while destructive in many ways, had also acted as a guardian. The cold, dark depths had slowed the decay, while the layers of sand and silt had protected the structure from the worst of the waves and currents. It was almost as if the ocean itself had kept the ship safe, waiting for the right moment for humans to find it. The anticipation among the team grew with each passing day. They knew that raising the ship would be a delicate operation, requiring patience and skill. Every decision mattered. Lifting the ship too quickly could cause it to break apart, while leaving it too long could allow the ocean to continue its slow erosion. The archaeologists held meetings, discussed strategies, and rehearsed every step. They were aware that this could be one of the most significant maritime discoveries of the century. Local authorities and governments were also notified. The discovery was not just a matter of academic interest, it was part of human history. Efforts were made to protect the site from potential looters or unauthorized divers. The ship had become a treasure trove of knowledge, offering insights not only into maritime history, but also into trade, culture, and life in a time long gone. Everyone involved felt a sense of responsibility, knowing that this discovery was both rare and fragile. As the expedition continued, the story of the ship began to capture the public's imagination. News outlets shared the journey of the team, the challenges they faced, and the promise of what they might find. People were fascinated by the idea of a ship lying undisturbed for 120 years, a time capsule from the past. It became more than just a discovery. It was a symbol of curiosity, patience, and the relentless human desire to uncover the unknown. Even as the experts prepared for the next stage, raising the ship from the ocean floor, they took time to reflect on the significance of what they had found. This was not just about wood and metal. It was about people who had lived, worked, and dreamed over a century ago. Each nail, each plank, each shadow in the water was a connection to a past that had been forgotten by most, but was now returning to the light. In this first part of the story, the stage was set. The ship had been found, its existence confirmed after more than a century, and the experts had begun to understand its importance. What lay inside remained a mystery, a secret kept by the ocean for generations. The excitement, curiosity, and anticipation built slowly, promising that what was to come would be even more extraordinary. The ocean had kept its secret for 120 years, but now humanity was ready to listen. And so the story of the sunken ship began, not just as a tale of discovery, but as a journey into history, adventure, and the enduring human spirit. What had been lost to time was on the verge of being found, and the world waited with bated breath to see what treasures, stories, and secrets the ship would finally reveal. The day had finally arrived. After months of careful planning, endless preparation, and countless hours of research, the team of marine archaeologists stood ready to attempt the most challenging part of their mission, raising the ship from the ocean floor. It was a task that demanded patience, precision, and a deep understanding of both history and the sea. Every expert on the team knew that this moment would define their careers and perhaps even make history itself. The ship had been lying in the deep, silent waters for 120 years, protected by layers of sand, sediment, and marine life. Time had preserved it, but it had also made the structure fragile. One wrong move could destroy decades of work, countless hours of research, and the chance to uncover treasures from the past. The team could not afford mistakes. Every member was aware that they were about to handle something extraordinary, a piece of history that no one had touched in over a century. To ensure the ship could be raised safely, engineers and marine experts had designed a unique system. Giant cranes, strong enough to lift massive weights, would slowly bring the ship toward the surface. The vessel would be supported by straps and a specially designed cradle to prevent it from breaking apart. Alongside the cranes, remotely operated vehicles would monitor the process, sending live images of the ship and its surroundings back to the team on the support vessels above. As the operation began, tension filled the air. The cranes moved slowly, their enormous arms extending over the water like the careful reach of a surgeon. The team held their breath as the first straps were carefully lowered and positioned under the ship. Divers in specialized suits moved cautiously, adjusting the supports and ensuring nothing would slip. Every movement was deliberate, as even the smallest mistake could have catastrophic consequences. Hours passed as the operation continued. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the ship began to rise from the ocean floor. The water around it shimmered as it broke free from centuries of sediment. Tiny particles floated in the light of the underwater lamps, creating an almost magical glow. For the team, it was a mixture of awe and anxiety. They could see the ship emerging, yet every inch was a reminder of how delicate and precious this moment was. The deeper the ship rose, the more details became visible. The wooden hull, worn by time but still surprisingly strong, revealed traces of the craftsmanship of the 19th century. The seams between the planks were tightly sealed, a testament to the skill of the builders. The shape of the ship's decks and masts, though distorted by years underwater, began to hint at its original elegance and size. The team was amazed. For many, it was the first time in their lives that they had witnessed something so perfectly preserved from a distant past. As the ship approached shallower water, the team noticed something unexpected. The surface of the hull was covered in layers of marine life, corals, barnacles, and small creatures that had made it their home over the decades. Some parts of the ship were brightly colored with coral growth, while others were smooth where sand and currents had worn it down. It was a living history lesson, showing how nature and time had combined to protect and transform the vessel. But the excitement was not without risk. At certain moments, the ship shifted slightly, sending tremors through the straps and the cranes. Engineers quickly adjusted the supports, rebalancing the weight to ensure the ship remained stable. Every second required careful attention, and the team worked in near silence, communicating only through precise instructions. It was as if the entire operation depended on the perfect coordination of hundreds of small actions, each one critical to the success of the mission. During the lifting process, the archaeologists were eager to see what lay inside the ship. Though they had only seen it through remote cameras and sonar scans, there were hints of rooms, cabins, and perhaps storage areas. Could personal belongings, journals, or cargo still exist after all these years? The thought of discovering letters from sailors, instruments used for navigation, or everyday items frozen in time filled the team with anticipation. It was a historian's dream, the possibility of uncovering life exactly as it had been over a century ago. As the ship broke through the final layers of water and sediment, the team could see its decks in detail for the first time. Planks, though weathered and softened by the years, were intact. The ship's bow and stern were fully visible, and even some of the railings remained in place. The vessel seemed to rise from the past itself, a bridge between centuries. Experts on the surface could hardly contain their excitement. Cameras captured every angle, while the live feed broadcast images to the research station, allowing historians and enthusiasts around the world to witness the extraordinary moment. The raising of the ship was slow, deliberate, and methodical. The team had decided that speed would be dangerous. Even a small crack or misalignment could cause irreparable damage. They worked in shifts, with divers and engineers alternating to ensure that everyone stayed focused and alert. Each hour brought progress, and yet every moment was filled with tension. It was a delicate dance with time, the ocean, and history itself. As the ship reached the surface, the sunlight revealed its true condition. It was better preserved than anyone had expected. The water had acted as both a shield and a caretaker, slowing decay and protecting the structure from the harshness of the outside world. The crew's cabins, the captain's quarters, and even some storage areas could be distinguished. Experts realized that they were on the verge of making one of the most significant discoveries in maritime history. The team took time to stabilize the ship on the surface. Giant support beams and floating platforms were used to keep it steady. The first taste of sunlight in 120 years illuminated the vessel, revealing its weathered wood, intricate carvings, and the remnants of its original design. Everyone present felt a mix of wonder and reverence. This was not just a ship. It was a time capsule, holding within it the lives, hopes, and experiences of those who had sailed aboard it long ago. Once stabilized, divers began the delicate work of clearing the deck. They carefully removed seaweed, sand, and small debris, revealing hidden details that had been obscured for over a century. The team discovered ropes, pulleys, and tools used for sailing, some still in remarkably good condition. Every item told a story, adding layers to the narrative of the ship's life. It was as if time had paused inside these walls, waiting for the right moment to share its secrets. One of the most thrilling discoveries occurred when the team reached what appeared to be the captain's quarters. The small room, though battered, contained hints of personal belongings. Objects that had belonged to someone who had lived and worked on the ship long ago were preserved beneath layers of marine sediment. The thought that they were touching history directly, interacting with the past in a way no book or painting could convey, sent waves of excitement through the team. The raising of the ship also attracted attention from the public and media. News outlets broadcast the progress live, sharing images and updates as the vessel emerged from the depths. People around the world were fascinated by the story of a ship lost to time and now returning to the surface. Children, students, and history enthusiasts followed every detail, imagining the adventures, storms, and daily life of the sailors who had once called this ship home. Despite the excitement, the team remained cautious. They knew that the ship was still vulnerable. Exposure to the air could accelerate decay, so every step was taken to ensure that it would be carefully preserved. Specialists in conservation worked alongside the archaeologists, preparing materials and treatments that would stabilize the wood, protect delicate surfaces, and prevent further damage. It was a race against time, but one approached with patience and care. As the sun began to set, the ship rested fully on the surface, a magnificent relic of the past revealed after 120 years beneath the ocean. The team gathered on the deck, exhausted but exhilarated. They had faced countless challenges, from the depth and pressure of the water to the fragility of the ship itself, and they had succeeded. The raising was complete, but the real journey was just beginning. Inside the vessel lay the secrets of its crew, its voyages, and its cargo, treasures that would astonish experts and rewrite history. In this part of the story, the focus was not just on the technical achievement of raising the ship, but on the awe, suspense, and human effort involved. The ship, once hidden in darkness, had now returned to the world above, and the promise of discoveries inside captured the imagination of all who had followed its story. For the archaeologists, this was more than a mission. It was a once-in-a-lifetime encounter with history itself. As night fell, the ship glowed under the lights of the research vessels. It stood as a reminder of resilience, the enduring power of the ocean, and the fascination of history preserved in time. The next phase would reveal even greater secrets, as the team prepared to open the vessel and explore its interior. The excitement was palpable, and the world waited eagerly to see what treasures, stories, and mysteries the ship had kept hidden for more than a century. After months of searching, preparing, and finally raising the ship from the ocean floor, the team of marine archaeologists now faced the most thrilling part of their journey, exploring what lay inside. For 120 years, the vessel had been untouched, hidden beneath layers of water, sand, and marine life. Its interior had remained a secret, and no one could predict what they might find. Each member of the team felt a mix of excitement, nervousness, and awe. The ship was not just wood and metal. It was a time capsule, a frozen moment of history waiting to reveal its story. The first challenge was gaining access to the ship's interior without causing damage. Decades underwater had softened the wooden planks, and sudden exposure to air could make them fragile. Conservation experts worked closely with the archaeologists, carefully selecting tools that would allow them to open the ship's doors, hatches, and compartments gradually. The process was slow, deliberate, and precise. Every movement mattered, because even a small crack or tear could destroy artifacts that had survived more than a century. As the first hatch creaked open, the team was greeted with a dim, musty scent, a mixture of water, wood, and centuries of preserved air. The interior was dark, the sunlight barely reaching beyond the entrance. Cameras and portable lights illuminated the rooms, revealing shadows of the past frozen in place. Immediately, the archaeologists noticed that the ship's structure had survived remarkably well. The floors were intact, the walls were standing, and even some of the furniture and equipment were still in position. It was as if the crew had stepped away for a moment, leaving everything behind. The first room they explored appeared to be a storage area, likely used for cargo. Boxes, crates, and barrels were stacked neatly, though many had shifted slightly over the decades. Inside the containers, they discovered items that seemed almost ordinary yet extraordinary because of their age. There were tools, kitchen utensils, and pieces of clothing, each offering a glimpse into daily life aboard a 19th-century vessel. The team carefully documented everything, photographing and cataloging each object before removing it. What shocked the team most was the condition of some of the artifacts. Despite being submerged for over a century, many items were preserved as if time had paused around them. Metal objects had rusted slightly, but the shapes and designs were clear. Paper and fabric, though fragile, were legible. The preservation was remarkable, and the archaeologists realized that this ship was unlike any other they had ever encountered. It was a rare opportunity to study history exactly as it had existed, untouched by human hands for generations. Moving deeper into the ship, the team discovered the living quarters. These small rooms, once filled with sailors' belongings, were astonishing in their detail. Hammocks were still strung in some areas, though faded and worn. Personal items, combs, shoes, notebooks, and even small trinkets lay where they had been placed long ago. The archaeologists could almost imagine the sailors' daily routines, rising early, working on deck, writing letters, sharing meals, and dreaming of home. Each item told a story, a personal connection across time that brought the past vividly to life. Among the most significant discoveries were the ship's journals and letters. Stored carefully in what appeared to be the captain's quarters, these documents offered a window into the minds of those aboard. The handwriting, though faded, was readable. Pages described voyages, weather conditions, challenges faced at sea, and reflections on life and work. Some letters were addressed to loved ones far away, filled with longing and hope. Reading them, the team felt an intimate connection with people who had lived more than a century ago. Their emotions, dreams, and struggles seemed to reach across time, reminding everyone that history is not just dates and events. It is lived experience. The captain's quarters were particularly revealing. The room was small but well-appointed, with shelves, a desk, and personal items that suggested a man who took pride in his work and cared deeply for his crew. Maps and navigation instruments were carefully preserved, some showing routes and ports that were familiar in the 19th century. The team marveled at the precision and skill required to navigate the seas without modern technology, relying only on knowledge, observation, and courage. Every artifact in this room told a story of responsibility, leadership, and the challenges of life at sea. In addition to the personal items, the archaeologists found evidence of the ship's trade and cargo. Exotic goods from distant lands were stored in the hold, including spices, textiles, and other valuable commodities. These items suggested that the ship had been part of significant trade routes, carrying goods that connected countries and cultures long before modern transportation. The discovery provided insights into global commerce of the era, showing how interconnected the world was even more than a century ago. One of the most thrilling finds was a collection of scientific instruments. Compasses, sextants, telescopes, and other tools had been preserved in surprisingly good condition. These devices reminded the team of the skill and knowledge required to travel long distances over open water. Each instrument was a testament to human ingenuity, allowing sailors to navigate vast oceans safely despite storms, waves, and uncertainty. For historians and scientists, these artifacts were priceless, offering a tangible link to the methods of exploration and navigation used in the past. The discovery also shed light on the dangers faced by the crew. Evidence of the storm that had sunk the ship was still visible in broken furniture, damaged equipment, and waterlogged documents. It was a stark reminder that life at sea was perilous. The sailors had endured storms, unpredictable weather, and the constant threat of accidents. Yet despite these dangers, the ship had survived underwater for 120 years, silently guarding its secrets until now. The archaeologists carefully explored every cabin and compartment. They uncovered small items that hinted at the personalities and lives of the crew. A carved wooden figure, a musical instrument, a favorite book. These objects humanized the sailors, transforming them from names in historical records into real people with dreams, fears, and passions. Each discovery was cataloged, photographed, and preserved, ensuring that future generations could learn from and appreciate the lives of those who had sailed the ship. The team was particularly amazed by the preservation of textiles. Pieces of clothing, sails, and ropes were found in a condition that exceeded expectations. Although faded and delicate, the fabrics provided information about the materials, techniques, and styles used in the 19th century. Historians could now study these artifacts to better understand fashion, functionality, and the daily needs of sailors long ago. Every piece told a story, offering a tangible connection to a world that had existed more than a century ago. Another surprising discovery was evidence of the crew's food and provisions. Containers that had held dried fruits, grains, and preserved meat were still partially intact. The team could see how sailors had stored and rationed supplies for long voyages. It was a rare opportunity to study the diet, nutrition, and planning required for life at sea. These findings provided insights not only into survival, but also into the daily routines, habits, and ingenuity of the people who had lived aboard the ship. As the exploration continued, the team uncovered objects that revealed cultural connections and personal stories. Small toys, religious items, and decorative objects reflected the beliefs, traditions, and creativity of the sailors. These findings reminded the archaeologists that the ship was more than a vessel. It was a floating community where people from different backgrounds lived, worked, and shared experiences. Every artifact strengthened the sense of connection across time, bridging the centuries between the past and the present. Perhaps the most dramatic moment came when the team discovered a hidden compartment. Tucked away beneath the captain's quarters, it contained items that had been carefully stored for protection. Among them were gold coins, jewelry, and rare documents. The find was unexpected and immediately captured the attention of experts. These treasures were not only valuable, but also historically significant, offering insights into trade, wealth, and the priorities of the ship's crew. The hidden compartment underscored the care and planning involved in maritime travel, where sailors had to protect valuable items even in dangerous and unpredictable conditions. Throughout the exploration, the team took every precaution to preserve the ship and its contents. Conservation specialists monitored humidity, light, and temperature to ensure that delicate items would not deteriorate. Each artifact was handled with care, documented meticulously, and prepared for eventual study and display. The process was slow, but the patience paid off. The preservation of these objects allowed the team to piece together a detailed, vivid picture of life aboard the ship more than a century ago. The discoveries inside the ship were not just important for historians, they also captured the imagination of the public. News of the artifacts, letters, and treasures spread quickly, sparking excitement and curiosity. People were fascinated by the thought that a ship, lost to the depths for 120 years, could return with such remarkable stories. Children, students, and history enthusiasts imagined the sailors' daily lives, the adventures they experienced, and the challenges they faced on the high seas. The ship had become more than a discovery. It was a bridge to the past, bringing history alive in a way that books alone could not. By the time the team concluded the initial exploration, they had uncovered a treasure trove of artifacts and information. Every room, every compartment, and every object added layers to the story of the ship, its crew, and its journeys. The experience had been exhausting but exhilarating, leaving the team with a profound sense of accomplishment and wonder. They had not only discovered a ship, they had uncovered a world frozen in time, waiting to be studied, understood, and appreciated. In this part of the story, the focus shifted from the raising of the ship to the breathtaking discoveries inside. The artifacts, letters, personal belongings, and cargo provided a vivid and intimate view of life more than a century ago. For the archaeologists, each object was a connection to the people who had sailed the ship, and for the world, it was a reminder that history is alive, waiting to be found, studied, and celebrated. As the sun set on the third day of exploration, the ship rested quietly under the careful watch of the experts. The interior, once hidden and mysterious, had revealed its secrets, and yet there was still more to learn. The team knew that careful study, preservation, and interpretation would continue for months, if not years. But one thing was certain. The ship had returned from the depths not just as a relic, but as a storyteller, carrying voices, dreams, and experiences from the past into the present. After the astonishing discoveries inside the sunken ship, the team of archaeologists and historians faced a new challenge, sharing the findings with the world while ensuring that the artifacts and the ship itself were preserved for generations to come. The significance of what they had uncovered could not be overstated. For over 120 years, the ship had remained hidden beneath the ocean, a silent witness to history. Now it had returned, carrying not only treasures and cargo but the personal stories, dreams, and struggles of those who had sailed on it long ago. The first step was to carefully transport the artifacts to laboratories and conservation centers. Each object, from delicate papers and fabrics to metal tools and personal belongings, required specialized care. Experts in preservation worked meticulously to stabilize items that had been underwater for more than a century. Humidity, light, and temperature were carefully controlled to prevent deterioration. Even the smallest mistake could destroy irreplaceable history, so every action was taken with the utmost care and precision. As the artifacts were cataloged and studied, historians began piecing together a detailed picture of the ship's life and its crew. Letters and journals provided insight into the thoughts, fears, and hopes of sailors who had lived long ago. Entries described voyages across treacherous seas, encounters with storms, and moments of calm where sailors reflected on family, home, and the world they had left behind. Through these writings, the team could almost hear the voices of the past, speaking across the century with remarkable clarity. The ship's cargo told another story. Exotic spices, textiles, and goods from distant lands revealed the extensive trade routes of the 19th century. These discoveries offered historians new insights into global commerce, showing how interconnected countries were even before the era of modern shipping and technology. By studying the cargo, experts could trace connections between distant regions, learning not only about the goods themselves, but also about the economies, cultures, and people involved in trading them. Each crate and container was like a puzzle piece, helping reconstruct the complex web of trade that connected the world more than a century ago. The captain's quarters and personal items offered another layer of understanding. Maps, navigation tools, and personal belongings revealed the challenges of life at sea and the skill required to navigate without modern instruments. The preserved documents, clothing, and small trinkets humanized the crew, transforming them from names on a historical record into real people who had worked, dreamed, and struggled. The researchers realized that the ship was not just a vessel. It was a community, a floating home for those who had risked their lives daily to traverse the open seas. One of the most fascinating aspects of the discovery was how well the ship had survived underwater. While the ocean had destroyed many artifacts over the years, it had also preserved many others in remarkable condition. The layers of sand and silt, combined with the cold, dark environment of the deep sea, had slowed decay and protected delicate items. Even fragile papers, fabrics, and wood remained intact enough to provide valuable information. Conservationists marveled at this natural preservation, recognizing that the ocean had, in a way, acted as both guardian and caretaker for the ship. News of the discovery quickly spread around the world, capturing the imagination of the public. People were fascinated by the story of a ship lost for more than a century and the treasures it had carried. Documentaries, articles, and news reports followed the team's progress as they studied and preserved the artifacts. Schools used the story as a teaching tool, inspiring students to learn about history, maritime life, and the adventures of sailors long ago. The ship had become more than a historical find. It had become a bridge to the past, allowing people of all ages to connect with a world that existed long before their time. The team also worked closely with museums to prepare exhibitions that would allow the public to experience the ship and its artifacts firsthand. Carefully curated displays showcased letters, personal items, cargo, and navigation tools. Visitors could see the delicate fabrics, read the sailors' journals, and even view the captain's maps. By presenting the artifacts in this way, museums allowed people to step back in time, imagining the lives of those aboard the ship and the challenges they faced. It was an immersive experience that made history tangible and exciting. Beyond public exhibitions, the ship also provided valuable information for scientific research. Marine archaeologists studied the effects of long-term submersion on wood, metal, and other materials, gaining insights that could help preserve other underwater discoveries. Historians analyzed the journals, maps, and cargo to better understand maritime trade, culture, and daily life in the 19th century. Even linguists and cultural experts found value in the letters and documents, studying language, expressions, and cultural references that had survived intact beneath the sea. The ship had become a living laboratory, offering lessons across multiple fields of study. The global reaction to the discovery was remarkable. Experts from around the world praised the careful work of the team and marveled at the preserved artifacts. Governments recognized the historical significance, providing support to ensure that the ship and its contents were properly conserved and studied. Public interest remained high, with thousands of people following news updates, exhibitions, and educational programs related to the ship. The story of a vessel lost for 120 years and now returning to reveal its secrets resonated deeply with people, highlighting the power of history to inspire wonder, curiosity, and appreciation for the past. As the months passed, the team continued their work, carefully analyzing every detail. They discovered that the ship had not only carried goods but also stories of resilience, hope, and human ingenuity. They found evidence of problem-solving during storms, teamwork among sailors, and the creativity required to survive and thrive on long voyages. Each artifact contributed to a growing understanding of life at sea, revealing the strength, courage, and adaptability of those who had sailed aboard the vessel. The ship's story also prompted reflection on the broader lessons of history. It reminded people that the past is not distant or disconnected from the present. The letters, journals, and personal belongings revealed that human emotions, hopes, and struggles have remained constant across generations. The challenges of life, the desire for connection, and the drive to explore the unknown were as relevant today as they had been 120 years ago. The ship became a symbol of continuity, linking the lives of people from the past to those living now. In addition to the human stories, the discovery offered insights into environmental and maritime conditions of the past. By studying the ship, its cargo, and its route, researchers could learn about weather patterns, ocean currents, and the impact of storms on maritime travel. They could understand how sailors adapted to natural challenges, using skill, experience, and careful planning. This knowledge not only enriched historical understanding, but also provided valuable lessons for modern maritime studies, navigation, and conservation. The team also faced decisions about the long-term preservation of the ship itself. Moving such a large and delicate structure from the water permanently was impossible without causing damage. Instead, they created controlled environments where the ship could remain stable and accessible for study. Special tanks, supports, and protective systems ensured that the vessel would not deteriorate further while still allowing experts and students to learn from it. These measures represented a balance between preserving history and making it accessible for education and research. As the months turned into a year, the ship continued to reveal new discoveries. Small objects that had been overlooked during the initial exploration were carefully extracted and studied. Each find added more depth to the story, painting a richer picture of life aboard the vessel and the voyages it had undertaken. The team realized that even after all their work, the ship would continue to surprise and teach for years to come. It was a reminder that history is never fully complete and that every discovery opens doors to new questions, research, and understanding. The public fascination remained strong. Exhibitions, documentaries, and news stories continued to highlight the ship's significance. People were captivated not only by the treasures and artifacts, but also by the human stories they represented. Children imagined themselves as sailors aboard the ship, navigating the seas and writing letters to loved ones. Scholars used the ship as a case study in history, archaeology, and conservation. The vessel had become a bridge between the past and present, inspiring curiosity, learning, and wonder across generations. Ultimately, the discovery of the ship and the treasures within was more than a historical achievement. It was a reminder of human curiosity, perseverance, and the enduring power of storytelling. A vessel lost for 120 years had returned to reveal secrets, lives, and experiences that had been hidden beneath the waves. The dedication of the archaeologists, conservationists, and historians ensured that these treasures would be preserved, studied, and appreciated for years to come. It was a triumph not only of science and skill, but of imagination, patience, and respect for the past. The story of the ship concluded, for now, with lessons that reached far beyond maritime history. It reminded people of the importance of preserving the past, of learning from the lives and experiences of those who came before, and of the beauty and mystery of discoveries waiting to be made. The ship had been a silent witness to history for 120 years, and now, thanks to human effort, it had become a storyteller once more. Its secrets, treasures, and stories would inspire, educate, and fascinate people across the world for generations, proving that history, though hidden, always finds a way to be remembered. As the final reports were written, exhibitions curated, and conservation measures implemented, one thing was clear. The sunken ship had achieved what few historical discoveries ever do. It had captured the imagination of experts and the public alike. It had connected the past to the present in a way that was tangible, vivid, and unforgettable. And it had reminded the world that even in the depths of the ocean, history waits patiently, ready to reveal its wonders to those willing to look, to study, and to listen.